I'm curious. So tell me about what happened during your trip. Because I know that you did some, like, you were texting me and sending me pictures while you were gone. I was overseas at the same time you were overseas, and I was having a ball, like, well, following along. I was getting pictures of you dancing in the street and you were kayaking. You sent me a video, um, something, and then you were crawling under a tree, which like now I can't remember the details. Something about a really old tree. All I know is you, which is why I wanted you to talk about first the low points when you arrived, because suddenly there was this parting of the, literally parting of the skies, and then you were in it, and you were just, and one of your words for traveling was vibrant, I think. And so it felt like a very vibe, like from the pictures I saw, but I'm not.
You're inside the caves, the water. Oh my God, the water. Oh, we made it. I made it. I made it, Jacque. I made it. Oh my God. Oh.
And tell me what you experienced. You were like driving around mountains by yourself, all kinds of things, and you have not traveled overseas really since you were a teenager. So this is not,
Right.
this was
Yeah,
all.
so this was the traveling, abroad was all new for me, especially since all the new things taking place. But I knew I had saw one of their posts on Facebook that they had kayaked and in the sea, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and to these caves. I'm like, that was the only thing that I really wanted. I had placed the intention of that's what I really wanted to do. Well, I didn't know how to kayak. So before I left on my trip, I went to this little lake. Now we're talking a little lake, like you could walk across it if it was low enough, and rented a little kayak, got in it because um, my body wise with different things, I didn't know if I would be able to sit low enough, if my body could handle that and if I could get out of the kayak. So without turning over. So
That is my fear.
without an automatic eject, But so I went 3 or 4 times and I did it. And I thought, I think I know I can do this. I can get in and out. So of course, a lake versus a sea, Jacque, that's a little bit different, but I didn't think about that. And it was amazing. And I didn't know that I could even do that. And I did it. And then at the end of the trip, I was able to kayak again. And the day before I left is when we were going to kayak, but I fell and really injured my arm and I couldn't lift it or anything. I was in tears. And so, of course, they took care of me. They took me to what's called a pharmacy where you go in, you tell them what's wrong, and they give you the medication or whatever you need. You don't have to go to a doctor. And so that was, and I had hurt my arm before in the beginning of the trip. Um, they were gone on a safari. And so I house sat for 10 days. And so what I did is I cleaned out their rose garden and their vegetable garden and doing some things, and I hurt my arm. So this was a second injury. So, but anyway, so the last day, they said, well, what do you want to do today? Because, obviously you can't kayak. And I'm like, oh, yes, I can. And I was moving my arm. And so that whole other day, I just laid low, loved on myself. And it was the magical miracle that I was able to do it. And then kayaked, we went into the Mediterranean Sea, and the waves were so big that day. It was big white water. He said the waves were like 2.5, 3 feet. And I'm just like, okay, let's just do it. And we're kayaking across the Mediterranean Sea, and we had to kayak around a huge Navy ship. And I mean, we're like this little bitty compared to this big ship, right? And so you get all the water turbulence from that ship too, and the waves. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, are you doing okay? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, okay, because this is where we have to commit. Either we turn around and go back to shore, or we go full on and there's no stopping until we get to the caves. And he pointed the caves out, and it was a little bitty black dot. It was 2.5 miles. And I was like, oh my gosh. I think we're going. This was on my only thing. And we went, got in there, got inside the caves, and getting into the caves, he said, you have to see that big rock. I mean, it was a cliff. That's rock. You have to focus on that and go as hard and as fast as you can and go straight for that. And I'm like, that doesn't seem very. He said, because the waves are so big and the direction of the waves, it will, when you get there, it's going to shift you and take you right, suck you right inside the cave. I'm like, okay. So I did it. We get inside the cave, and that was the most magical. It was like an out of body experience. Oh my God, the swells were so big I couldn't even video. Oh my God. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It was beautiful, all different colors in there, and the sun was shining inside the opening of the cave, and it was huge, and bats and birds, and it was great. So that was one of the big highlights, and so I was able to do that. And okay, I gotta turn around. Cool. Okay. We're going in for birds and everything in here. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And what I want to say too, or point out for people who are listening, is during part of the Brave Journey program, we talk about early on. We get like do a lot of self discovery and getting to know what we want and need from our trip. And as you're getting from Jacque right now, like some of the um, I do an exercise with people, which if you're part of it, you'll get to learn. But this exercise where you kind of suss out what your heart and what your soul's kind of really needing and wanting out of travel. And some people just really want peace, tranquility, respite. Um, but for Jacque, some of her words were vibrant and brave. And what you're seeing right now, or what you're hearing her talk about, because not everyone wants to kayak in the open sea. I'm not sure that I want to just yet. But it completely, what I love hearing from you is that it completely aligns with the things that we found early on that you were desiring of this new vibrancy, this new aliveness, this ability to be brave. And I mean, what about like talk about the epitome of brave and vibrant? You're in the like kayaking around a military boat and going into a cave. I love that because it so suits what you were looking for. And that's really the magic of the program too, is you finding out what you need and what you want. And it's almost like your soul becomes this magnet toward it. So even though you came in and you had this rough start, soon it just started magnetizing you to doing things like kayaking and and driving their stick shift car around the mountains and
Going in further. Oh my God, the swells were so big I couldn't even video. Oh my God. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.